Fire Radio.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of The Size Up by National Fire Radio, where what you do off the job matters. And again, I say this multiple times every week, but it does really matter, right? And one of the things that I do off the job, sort of, that you guys have kind of heard me talk about, kind of not a little bit, is I almost like scour my social media feeds, or what the algorithm is at least feeding me, to try to find emergency services personnel that do like cool things off the job, right? Because, I can't just know all my guests. Even though I do know a lot of them prior, I have to try to find some folks too. And the secret behind doing that is I use my own personal page at 555pip on Instagram. I use the Size Up page, and I look through the algorithm, and then I start to follow someone, because I just don't want to be like, oh, let me click on you. You look like you've made a lot of cool posts. Like, hey, come on the show. Let's do this. Like, I like to do a little bit of background beforehand. And so I guess it's kind of cringy, like internet stalking in a way. I don't necessarily like it's not like I'm like, oh, follow, like every post. I'm just kind of in the background looking. Oh, see, look, she's already into it, because now it's like my victim, right? This is really horrible to say. Like this, like if you were just listening now, you'd be like, this dude is a troll. Like, right, all
Where
the
are we
bad
going here?
where are we going? Hey, this could do well for the podcast. Again, like, I don't even know. Maybe my internet trolling, my internet stalking, whatever it is. So I've been following my guest today for probably I like to say I try to follow folks for at least like a month before I actually reach out, maybe longer. And if you guys who are all in emergency services, I'm lucky I even know what the today is, what day of the week it is. So I can't tell you how long I've been following her. And it's funny too that yesterday, so today we're recording on a Wednesday, the episodes drop on Tuesday. I didn't realize it was Tuesday, and I was supposed to post about the episode until about 1 PM. So I was like, oh, damn, it's Tuesday. I should probably set an alarm on that. But anyway, I've been following her, and it's just amazing. Her story is amazing. What she does is amazing. I'm super excited to talk to her. So all the way from Corpus Christi, Texas, where it did not snow today like it did here in New Jersey. Val Perez, how are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. I've followed your page, and I have several firefighter friends who actually do as well. And so, just excited to talk to you. Excited to be on. Thank you for having me.
No, it's so cool to know I'm followed. I still get those tingles inside. Like, people are paying attention a little bit, maybe one or two, but right, it's exciting that's so that people are listening occasionally. Like, right, every now and again, I get it, and it's kind of been a fun ride doing this, because it's expanded what I'm looking at on social media, and even. I don't want to say the algorithm has changed for me, because it's still like fires, fitness, and just most like normal stupidity, but it's highlighting folks like you. And I had this whole intro planned for you to talk about what it is you do that drove me to kind of follow you and have you as a guest today. And I blew that by talking about my own self. So I'm really sorry for that.
All good. All good.
But
We'll get there.
we will get there. We will get there. But you have, I would say, if we're gonna call this like an off duty job or an off duty hobby or however you refer to it, I would say, and I've met a lot of folks at this point between the not for profit and all these things. I gotta say, this is the coolest. Like, in my opinion, you're really close to it. I know someone I know is going to listen to this and be like, no, bro, you met this person and it was cooler what they did. But come on, like, you are the manager of the firefighters baseball team in the Savannah Banana Baseball League. Let's just put it out there now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I agree with you. Obviously, I'm a little biased. But like a lot of people in the fire service, I mean, baseball is huge to a lot of people, whether you played when you were little or it's something you did through collegiate, to the collegiate level, or I have guys that played pro ball that are in my department. And so all levels, somebody can connect at some level, to baseball. And then of course our team is called the firefighters. And so, I have the privilege of merging the two, right? So for me, like, it's the best of both worlds just put together. And am always amazed at how it just happened and kind of fell into my lap, and it was an opportunity that one door led to another, and here we are. And so we're just kind of riding that wave right now. But yeah.
Those are the best opportunities for firefighters, right? The ones
Right.
that you're just like, I don't even know how this happened. I don't even know how to have a podcast still to this day. It's been since however many years we've been doing this. I'm so 5 years ago. I still don't even know how I'm doing this and get to meet cool people. And like, it's exciting, right? It's just like going to work. 21
Yeah.
years and I'm still excited to go to work tomorrow.
Yep. Absolutely. I mean, it's something different every day. I'm sure you've met, like you said, so many different types of people who all have, some commonalities that we share. But the way that we branch off outside of the fire service is pretty intriguing. So I'm sure you
Yeah.
have met that many people, and in doing so with the banana ball side of things. Obviously, I'm traveling a lot more, so I'm meeting a ton of people, way more than I ever envisioned in my life. And hearing their 2 minute, 3 minute stories from each of them is, man, it never gets old. That's for sure.
Right. And isn't that like, I love the way you said that too, right? Because you do get, 2, 3 minutes with some of these folks, especially when you're at a major league baseball stadium and you're trying to work the crowd. And when you take in those stories and move on to the next one, that really, the fact that you can have that connection really quickly and then move on, but you still remember it, right? And I'm sure that's something that happens to you definitely way more than me.
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I put myself in their shoes a lot. Like I was that person. Just to be frank, I was on the wait list of trying to get tickets, and the first banana game I ever went to, I was a head coach at. Like that's just how it happened. Like it's obviously in high demand, and I was talking to my wife about it. I was like, man, like last year we were begging to try and get tickets, hoping that we'd win the lotto to get tickets when they played in Houston at Minute Maid. And neither of us got it. None of our friends surrounding us got it, and we all put in. And then we were laughing. We're like, man, how cool is this? Not do we only get to go to one game, but my whole family gets to go to as many as we want. So
You get to go to
pretty
the games.
awesome.
You're sitting on the effing bench, Val. Like,
Right, right,
like
right. A little
you
different
went from
perspective.
trying to win a lottery to being like, oh yeah, I'm on the bench now. Like, what's up? I got the uniform on. Like, oh, like,
Oh yeah,
and the fact that you're so humble about it, I love already, which I can tell. But let's not get too deep into banana ball. Let's talk about the pre-banana ball stuff here because I have learned, there's a bit of a recipe to podcasting, I guess, or to interviewing folks, and you always have to kind
gotcha,
of start back at the beginning. So let's go
gotcha.
back to like, I guess little league, right? Has baseball always been your thing, or how did all
Yeah.
that kind of happen pre-firefighting?
So I always say, if I have three older brothers. I'm the baby of the family. So I always say, if they were tennis players, I would have been a tennis player. If they were soccer players, I don't know soccer. Whatever they did, I was doing. They
Gotcha.
happen to love baseball, so naturally, I love baseball. That's what I did. They're 8, 6, and 4 years older than me in that order, and then me, right? So growing up, it's like eventually I always had to get good enough to be able to like hang with them. Otherwise, I had to go inside with my mom and do whatever we had to do inside. And so I got to go outside with them and play. And my goal as a child was to make my out count because they'd let me be on one of their teams, they'd let me hit, but if I got out, it didn't count. So
Okay.
my goal for the longest time was to make my out count and make it matter. So I had to be good enough to where I started being an asset to whoever's team I got placed on rather than a hindrance, right? So eventually my out started counting, and then thankfully I got better and better, and then I was
Did
not
you
picked
did,
last anymore. So
did you get better than them? Like you could say it. They're probably not listening.
um I will let them answer that for you, but a lot of times they get a lot of crap from their friends saying something along those lines. But
Hey,
yes,
listen, there's nothing
yes,
wrong with that either. But I love, and look, I say this throughout my episodes like that. That may be the name of your episode is make your out count because it means so much in life in general, right?
sure,
Like making that chance count. And for you as a little girl already thinking about that to be like, I need to do this. Like I need to work as hard to make that count. It's definitely the drive that's gotten you to where you are in life for sure, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I mean, finding your worth, and thankfully, like I said, it was in baseball at the time. Like when I was a little kid, I didn't know anything else, and that was what I decided to put my focus on, and as back in the day, and now we're trying, you have kids, I do as well, we're trying to I'm sure you're trying to get your kids outside as much as possible, right? And so luckily my kids like to do that, but they do that because we do that, right? Back in the
Yeah.
day, my parents are working, my brothers are outside, so we were picking up baseball, basketball, football, riding bikes, making ramps for our bikes, like, whatever crazy things you could do. And so, like I said, I was just always trying to keep up with them. And in my opinion, that's why I got to be better. So if somebody were to ask, like on pen and paper, who has a better baseball career, sure, like mine has a little bit more to add to it, but that's how it should be. Like just like whatever you're doing, you want your kids to be 10 times greater, right? So
Yeah,
as the older brother, he'll tell you he's always wanted me to be better than him, and
that's
so on and so
awesome.
forth. So yeah.
It's such a great thing when you have that too, right? Where you're like that little bit of competition, but it's still that love that goes into it, right? Like
Yeah.
you're always competing. Like, and I watch my boys compete, now in music, because that's what really their big thing is
Mhm.
being up on stage and singing, playing the guitar, playing the bass. And as much as they are in right now, they're in the same band, but they are still competing to see like who gets more of the bit of an accolade, let's say, as to
Oh,
like when they have a
absolutely.
band rehearsal, like, oh, bass, you did great, or oh, vocals on this song, you were the best today, type thing. You can see that little bit of competition in them. But it also goes with that love for each other and that help. Like your brothers, I'm sure, were a huge help, just as you were to them in your careers of baseball coming up through it all.
Oh yeah, for sure. I always joke because I some people have parents that are a little like overbearing, especially in
In
whatever sport you're
sports,
playing, and they're just like,
no,
I'm sure
not in
you've heard
sports, not in
the
sports.
stereotypes that are absolutely true. But my parents were super chill. My dad was just great game. And if anybody was gonna rip into me after a game, it was my brothers, not my parents. So yeah, that was I feel like I had the best of both worlds there because I had somebody holding me accountable, and if I hit one home run, why didn't I hit 3 home runs in that game? Um, versus I could go 0 for 4. My dad thinks I'm the greatest. So
Those are the best parents ever, right? And
oh
it
yeah,
is that nurturingness that you need to have, right? Like I can't,
absolutely.
if my sons mess up a song or a note. I mean, usually the notes I don't catch; they're their own worst enemy because I'm not musically inclined at all. I can tell when
You
they
make
may
me
mess
sound
up the words.
amazing.
Yeah, they always sound amazing. Vocally, I could be like, nope, that was not the words in a Nirvana song. Sorry, I grew up with that and I know it exactly. Um, but to have that kind of nurturingness on the parents and the competitiveness with your siblings is just amazing.
Yeah.
So kind of like coming up in it with baseball, were you softball, baseball? Was it baseball all the way on the boys team? There's always that kind of question I would imagine that you get
Yeah.
as you came through the little league type experience into high school.
Yeah, sure. So, just for reference, I'm 33. So, thinking about how things were back when I was 4, 5, 6, right?
Sure.
So, it wasn't horrible, but it wasn't what it is now. So, I played baseball with the boys up until I got into high school. Excuse me. So,
That's
I played baseball, of course. As I got closer to high school, I had people saying, you want to switch to softball, you want to switch over, you're going to do that in high school. And I was like, no, no, no. I played one fall ball league of it and I hated it. Um, and I went back to baseball. And I was a pitcher and a shortstop in baseball. And then in softball, I was a shortstop. They tried to get me to pitch. And that was the most embarrassing 2 weeks of my entire life in softball, pitching in softball. I will always forever have mad respect for softball pitchers. I don't know how you do it, but I'm glad that you do it, so I don't have to. But I played baseball mostly growing up, and then, of course, I played other sports as well. It was huge, and but doing that, I played softball. I didn't switch over to softball full time until I got to my freshman year in high school.
okay. So high school was kind of softball with baseball as a backup, I guess, is a good way to put it.
Yeah, I guess it was. Well, at that point, softball. I dove into softball, and I just took my baseball background and used that just to make me better at softball. So
And again, too, for the listeners and for me, I have boys, so I don't even know. Like, I know when I played little league, which was not very long, but almost every kid plays little league, or at least back in my day, but way
yeah,
back when, because I'm a little bit older than you. But we had a girl on our team, and she was the best player. But again, then that was like a very in the '80s. That was not
rare.
anywhere near like it was like okay she played but she was only going so far, and I guess
Right.
probably you're like late 90s early 2000s around
Yeah.
that time, so
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was kind of like the change, I
Yeah.
guess. Was that like when the change was maybe happening
It
that
was
girls?
happening for sure. So there was two. main leagues in my hometown, in my area, and I was the only girl in my league, and there was another girl in the other league, and we never met up until All Stars, right? Because All Stars you play everybody around. So in third grade, there was huge hype about this girl who's coming to my elementary school. They moved to my elementary school, and we were just going to be the best of friends. So, of course, naturally, immediately we hated each other, right?
Of course.
You're the only baseball player on your team. I'm the only girl baseball player on my team. Like, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. We just hated each other before we even met. Um, we ended up meeting. Was the maid of honor in my wedding. She's still my best friend. The rest is
No.
history. Um, Things were phenomenal when she moved over in third grade. We ended up playing together. We played high school softball together. And like I said, we're still best friends till this day. But that being said, she was the only other girl that I ever played against. So, of course, naturally, we were competitive. But at the same time, there's just that common ground that you come from whenever
Sure.
you're the few out of the many, that you're naturally gonna come together. And so I was a pitcher, she was a catcher, which was perfect. So when we'd hang
It's
out,
like,
she'd bring her catcher's gear and we'd, pitch 9 innings, and after every game we'd win the World Series and practice our celebrations of how we were gonna do that. And that's what we did in third, fourth, fifth, sixth grade. Um, so that was pretty exciting. Obviously, it was one of my fond favorite memories from childhood. But yeah, being the one of the only females was, like I said, I always had her. So I was never like the only one here.
sure.
Um, but that switch up, of course, going to softball. Once I switched to softball in my freshman year of high school, I didn't pick up a baseball again until 3 years ago.
Oh, no
So
way. Okay, so you were
yeah.
hitting softball from all through high school, then college,
In
or
college, yeah, I played D1 softball in college. Um, but yeah, it was no longer baseball. I thought was a thing of my past. So
all right, let's stick to baseball then, because then you managed to keep going with, you came back to baseball before the Savannah Bananas too, doing something pretty amazing. So how did that kind of all roll
yeah,
into it after college softball?
so college softball, I graduated in 2014. As soon as I still it was like a month or two before I graduated when I took the firefighter exam, and so right after college, I went straight fire department. Wasn't
So
playing
was that the
anything.
plan? Wait, no, I skipped ahead,
Sorry,
but now I
sorry.
want to go back. No, 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 it's okay. This is total free for all here, right? But like, so when did that come into play? Like, did you and your anti best friend all decide together or something? Like, hey, now we want to do this together, or did she's a lawyer now, and you're like, nope, I want to ride on big red trucks or something?
She actually also works in baseball and graphic design, so she didn't go too far away from baseball either.
Gotcha.
But yeah, no, she went off to go play college softball as well. We just played at different colleges. Um, but yeah, so then probably my going in my junior year, I realized I decided I want to be a firefighter. And my college at the time, or the university I was at, didn't have like fire science degrees or even medical degrees, other than if you were going to like pre med. And so I was already too far gone. I was like, well, I'll just finish my degree, and it was in health science, and finish playing ball, and then I'll go join the fire department. So that's kind of how that came about. But after I
What
graduated college,
what was
what's
the
that?
reason for that though? Like, what was the, hey, I want to, like, it looks cool to be a firefighter, which is a totally normal answer, or like that's
Right.
kind of like,
So of course, like you have a lot of different pieces that go into that decision, but
sure.
I knew I was always trying to find a way to serve, right? Figure out how I can serve those around me, serve my community, serve in whatever way possible. And then, so when I'm thinking of, okay, how can I serve somebody? Like, I felt a draw or a need to do that, to find
Sure.
like to fulfill a purpose, right? So in doing so, I was like, okay, well, what tools do I already have in my toolbox? What have I got? What am I good at? It's like, okay, I was all right with my grades. I wasn't like Dean's List, but I never failed. But I wasn't like just gonna go and create these random amazing inventions that are gonna save people's lives. Which is very ironic, right? Because of what we do. But I was trying to figure out what it was, and I knew like physicality was something that I had and something that I always wanted to work on and get better at. And that was a way that I thought, okay, well, how can I use my physical abilities to help somebody? I was never afraid to get down and dirty, to get sweaty, to get hot, whatever the environment was. I was used to hard work. I'm an infielder. I'm used to being dirty and getting hurt while doing what you're supposed to do for the common goal, right? Um, well, I had a friend who had a father that was a firefighter in Corpus, and where I'm from, um, this isn't the whole city, but we're really high on diabetes. There's a lot of Mexican food, a lot of Tex-Mex food. It's amazing. It's the best food in the world, in my opinion. But the result of that, if you're not exercising or eating in moderation, is there's a lot of people overweight. So when
Sure.
I saw my friend's dad, he was like jacked, cut, muscles, and he's like almost 50. And I'm like, of course, I'm at the time, I'm like, I don't know, 20. And I'm just thinking, I've never seen somebody your age look like that. What do you do? And he was like, "Oh, I'm a firefighter." And so he starts telling me about that. So to me, all firefighters were supposed to look like that, which, as we know now, that's not the case. But I was thinking, wow, okay, when I'm done playing sports, if I can get a job that fulfills me serving people for a greater purpose, fulfills me being physical and not working behind a desk every day, and I get to stay in good shape, that sounds amazing. So that was a complete draw. And I was like, oh, maybe this is where I'm supposed to focus in. Right. And before that, going back to, of course, 9/11 and everything that I learned from then I was in fifth grade. Um, I remember I remember that day like it was, I'm sure everybody does,
Sure,
like it
sure.
was yesterday. And I remember wanting to go then as if a fifth grader with no skills could go and help. But I remember feeling such a draw, and it was crazy to me because that's the first real world, like big worldly
Yeah.
event that happened that I ever
100% life-changing event.
life changing. And I never forgot that draw that I felt during that time. And I realized that, again, I was in fifth grade, I was 11, 10, and that never went away. And so every time I was trying to find a way to serve and figure out what I'm going to do with my life and my passions, like that never went away. So then I'm pairing these other realizations of what I thought firefighters were supposed to look like and how they're supposed to be fit and they're supposed to be active and do great things. And you pair serving people and you pair, the physicality of what it brings. And it's a team. Like it's a team that never ends, right? And so I played sports my whole life. I'm gonna serve people. I'm gonna be physical. I'm gonna be in shape until I retire. That's just how life's gonna work. And
That's it.
so it's a no
Kids,
brainer.
kids, kids who want to be firefighters, listen to what Val just said. That is it. Look for the buff dude who's old and become a
Yeah,
firefighter. I love
it's
it. That
magic.
is the best thing ever, right? And that like call to serve, right? And it's something that we all have, and it looks different for all of us, right?
Right,
But we all have something innate in us that wants us to do our job and to put ourselves possibly in harm's way for someone else,
right.
however that looks. And that kind of crosses the board, in that I like to use the Mr. Rogers kind of metaphor of like the helper community, right? That we're all helpers and we just want to help. And when you go into it with that idea and that kind of mindset, you're off to the best start you can ever have in your career.
Yeah.
All the other things are the cool parts of it. The pay, the hours, the even the teamwork part. That goes in. But it
Oh yeah.
always comes back to that like innate reason to want to help. And I love that part of your story, even going all the way back to fifth grade.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And I will tell you, I'm about to hit 10 years in May, and that's still not gone away. You know what I mean? Even there's the mundane and all the, BS that you deal with and the stub toes and all that crap that you have to deal with. But when it comes to the hard days, right? You get three burners in a night or whatever it may be, like, and you're going, 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 or it's here we get hurricanes. So hurricane season or, you know, random times that are supposed to be hard, supposed to be the most like dangerous. Like I still thrive off of that stuff. And
Yeah, and
that's
that's
when I
great
want to
too.
be with my team and my people. So, I mean,
And
that's exciting to me that passion has never faded.
the 10-year mark is a big deal too. I feel like the 5-year mark it's cool because it's like, oh, I've been here 5 years and like my feet are wet and there's a fair amount of people depending on the size of your department below me. So I'm
Hmm.
definitely not I'm still low, but I'm not the
Yeah.
lowest. You hit that 10-year mark and you're like, all right, what am I really doing here? and
Right.
how do I feel about it? So you still have that spark, right? And I
Mhm.
know I definitely had that spark. And one of the things that when I hit my 10-year mark, I thought was really unique, and I didn't realize it until then, was like the, some of the guys that were my mentors and who became kind of my best friends, they were hitting that 20-year mark right when I was
Mhm.
hitting that 10-year mark. And I was kind of looking to them like, this is so cool. You're right around that
Right.
18, 20 years, and now people are getting hired, and I wonder if they're looking at me like they're like I looked at you type of a thing, right?
Right.
And then I hit the 20-year mark and was like, now I'm just old and salty. Like because I look back at the same people that I thought about hitting that 10-year mark, and I'm
Yeah,
like, holy cow, like look at this. So I
that's
feel like that's such a big one for you.
yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. It's definitely a big milestone, and I think at 5 years, 4 years, 5 years, around there, it's I feel like you're a sophomore, right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not a freshman, but you're not a senior.
No,
You're not even a
definitely
junior,
not.
right? Like, you're, like, there, like, you know a little bit, but anyway, but yeah, like, now I'm it's cool to see the way my career has evolved as far as just responsibility of what I lean towards, right? Um last I just got off shift this morning. Last yesterday there was a bad a PD code that was unsuccessful for I didn't have that, but a couple of our colleagues did down the road, and it's one of those like abusive situations that's not good all around.
Yep.
And so my first instinct was, let me see who's on the box, um, in the fire truck and see who was working that call. And I reached out to them and I talked to them and just checked in on them, make sure everything's okay. Cause one of the guys who has it was a 3-year old. He has twin 3-year olds at home. So obviously just, checking that. So like a lot of times when I'm seeing these crazy bad calls, I'm more so checking on our guys. That's more of my first approach. And then kind of working backwards. Okay, well, how was the call? What'd you do? How can we get better from it? You know what I mean? That kind of thing. And so leading in that way and just kind of letting them understand like, hey, like things happen and things are heavy. And that's okay. You don't have to carry it alone. And so I like how I've naturally, I guess, started leaning that way over the past couple years. Whereas before, when I'm younger, and I'm like, I'm trying to make sure I'm doing everything right. I'm trying to make sure I'm following my protocol. I'm trying to make sure you're still just trying to make sure you
Sure.
understand the job. So anyway, it's
Well,
I'm liking the
well, you have
transition.
that time now. Like in that those 10 years that you've been on the job, you've seen those bad things happen. And,
Hmm.
again, going to someone now, again, which is crazy when I say this. This is my 30th year in emergency services, which I'm like, how is this even possible? But to break it into kind of 10-year cuts, right? Because I started as an EMT at 16. The first 10 years, there was nothing like you just said happening by anyone. Maybe there was someone being like, "You okay? Good, move on." Like that was what you got, and it's just let's call it what it is, right? And then those next 10 years, the transition started happening of, "Hey, let's really check in on each other. Let's do a
Hmm.
little bit more." And now you're in this group where these 10 years, you're realizing that and you're
Yeah,
doing more, right? And you're not being, and this is just from what you just told me now, you're not being overbearing about it. You weren't out banging a drum in front of their firehouse like, you just had a bad call, come talk to me, look at me, call this
we were all
number.
privately messaged people.
Exactly, right? And you're just checking in on them. And I love that fact in emergency services that we're just seeing that, because it's going to create a better provider. So when you get to that 20-year mark, you're going to be better, and all the people around you are going to be better, because of these things you're doing, and realizing a small change needed to be made that does so
Right.
much more
For
good.
sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, same thing back when I was in their shoes, because one of the guys brand new that was on that call is one of the most impactful things that I heard when I had my first couple PD codes and all that situation was from the older guys who told me about their experiences that they took, to heart, were heavy on them. And so it's like, I'll never forget those guys who were the big, beefy alpha guys or whatever you want to call them that you wouldn't anticipate are going to be opening up, but I'll never forget them opening up to me at that point in my career. So it makes it I'm an open book. I'm pretty easy to talk about emotions or whatever, but like so it's not may not mean as much to them that I'm coming to them, but just them knowing that other people who've been there, done that, are coming to them and letting them know, like, it's okay to talk about it.
Yeah.
Even if you are okay, it's okay to just have an open conversation.
And I think too, when you talk about those firefighters that you spoke to about it, it wasn't so much that they didn't want to talk about it. It's just that they didn't talk about it. But by you asking them those questions, probably without even knowing what you were doing, just trying to ask some questions, and then they tell their story and they start to feel better about it. Because I know
Yeah.
that's helped me in some tough times too, where, talking to whether it be a colleague or a complete stranger about it, or even a medical health professional about it, you're like,
Mhm.
whoa, this is a good idea. We should talk about these things more. And
Right.
it's going to help us over time.
Absolutely. I mean, I think people want to be heard a lot more than they realize. And so when somebody opens that door, a lot more times than none, they're gonna walk through it and like you said, hopefully feel a little bit better on the other end. Or be completely unaffected, but just know that they can if they want
Yeah.
to. You know what I
And I
mean?
love too, like I have a lot, like anything in the fire service, it's just a young service these days. Maybe we all say that when we get older, but like I have a lot of younger guys on my job, and I'm fortunate enough to say I'm their boss and be proud of them because I've walked in on those conversations where I've walked
Mhm.
in on like the 5 year firefighter talking to the 1 year firefighter about something that happened.
Yeah.
And, I just kind of fly on the wall, pour my coffee. Maybe I listen, maybe I walk back out, but seeing that kind of happening throughout my department, not just on my shift, but on all the shifts, all the houses, and knowing that it's occurring, it's just one of those
Mhm.
cool things that gives me hope for the future. Let's say that we're going to be
Oh,
able
yeah,
to kind
for
of
sure.
handle this mental health epidemic that we're dealing with now.
Absolutely. I agree.
Um, and I think too, like, and not knowing anything, but your department seems to have a pretty good history of health and wellness. If all those years ago you looked at the 50-year-old buff dude and you're like, hey, this is good. And my own knowledge of firefighter health and wellness, Texas is one of the earlier states that adopted these type of mentality. Like, hey, we should maybe be healthy to do this job.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, the valedictorian in our academy class, we actually lost because he didn't pass away, but he had some, mental health issues, I guess, following a string of bad calls, and they sent him through, therapy, and he was, getting, I guess, rehabbed, mentally for, like, a year and a half, almost 2 years before he was just like, "Look, this just isn't gonna work for me." Like, we parted ways, and I remember it being such a shame because he was hilarious, class clown, while also being super intelligent, great firefighter, great medic, um, and it was just like, man, like, when it was all happening, like, his spark just was gone. Like, he
Sure.
he wasn't who he was. He was a shell of who he was, which was so disappointing and disheartening to see because I hated that for him. And everybody was trying to help him at that point, but there was nothing in place like there is now to prevent those things. And there was a string of reasons why um, he wasn't set up to deal with those things at the time. And I mean, him and three other people from our class were the tailboards at that station, and they didn't have a captain for 6 months
Sure.
because of injury or leave or whatever it was. Like, he didn't have a direct supervisor to go to in house. You know what I mean? To deal with the
Yep.
the conversations after those calls when you're having coffee at night or whatever it is. Like, he didn't have that,
He
and
didn't have
so
that steady presence, right?
right,
Which again, we barely even realize that now, that how important steady leadership and
right,
how important, we talk about it. Like if you look at, our friend Mickey Farrell with Top Floor Tactics throws all those old FDNY videos up of, the 80s and the 70s that someone somehow was able to get a camera in there and catch those kitchen table conversations, right? But you
yeah,
talked about it before, that like team. And having that leader, having that group camaraderie is
mhm,
very important. And when you don't have that in
absolutely,
a fire station, firehouse, for whatever reason, a lot of things can kind of fall through the cracks. And just the realization of you saying that as being one of the reasons that this all could have kind of unraveled for him is
yeah,
huge, right? And
absolutely,
how we convince the bean counters of all this being important, we are not solving that on our hour here on the Size of Foul.
right. That's for sure.
but we're realizing it and we're making the fire service better for it. So that's
Absolutely. I
important.
mean, I think us doing our part, like within our shift and our station, and a little bit elsewhere, like when these things happen, like that guy will forever be in my mind whenever I'm realizing or hearing about these calls, or when I'm personally on these calls that could add to somebody who's already dealing with stuff like that. You know what I mean? So that's another reason why I'm trying to reach out in
And
that
that's
way.
just, telling a story like that really, really quickly on a podcast, mostly about baseball here, is important because, no, but because it really is because, there's folks out there. We never know who's struggling. You never know who can be struggling
Right.
at any point, who just hearing that story alone kind of triggers them to be like, maybe I should reach out to somebody. Whether it be to help them or it be to seek help themselves. And it's just like learning from, we have a call that goes sideways, which happens all the time. We come
Mhm.
back, we talk about it, and we learn from it.
Right.
Sometimes we even go as far as to take it and teach other people about what went wrong.
Right.
Um, and it could be the simplest thing is like, hey, don't forget that when you plug the airline into the air cart, you have to lock the end of it, right? Because we were training and we forgot to do that, and it popped out, and someone didn't have air anymore for their confined space rescue. Simple as things like that, all the way up to that type of a thing. And it's something I love about getting to talk to firefighters. Is just these sharing stories.
Oh yeah, for sure. Definitely a lot to learn between stories.
All right, so like everybody's now like, oh my God, I wanted to hear about the manager of the Savannah Bananas, and you guys went straight heavy on the size up, which happens, and it's totally okay, and it's totally what I love,
It's
and
natural.
I do think it's one of the reasons people listen because they want to hear kind of the flip flop of how we can do this and transition into it.
Right.
But
For sure.
so you played, and oh my God, we were actually getting into your national team baseball story is how we
Yeah.
were leading into all of
Okay.
this mess. So
Sorry.
really
Sidetrack.
quickly, you
Back
did
to it.
some other you did some other cool shit in sports before banana ball. Let's talk about that real quick. So
Yes.
how did you get that happening?
So I was just living my life as a firefighter. Got married, have 3 kids, just doing my thing, and then
Doing life, we call that.
just doing
Doing
life.
life.
And one of my brother's friends tagged me in a post on Facebook and was like, "Why aren't you playing in this?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" I had no idea what he was talking about. And it was a tournament of the World Cup at the time that year for well, Team USA was playing in the World Cup for women's baseball. And I was like, "How have I not heard? I didn't know this existed." And now I'm like, I just turned 30 at the time. And I'm like, "Why did I not know about this when I was 21 years old?"
Because you were
But
trying
I
to
was
be a
like,
firefighter, Val. You were trying
right,
to be a
right.
firefighter. That's why.
But I was like, "What's going on?" And so I started looking into it and I researched. I'm like, "How do you try out for this team?" And I watched some of their videos and I'm like, I think I'm still pretty athletic. Like I think I can throw a little bit, you know? And so I looked into the videos and I was like, okay. So I started going to USA Baseball and I emailed their, I guess, recruiting coordinator. I'm not sure the title,
Sure.
but I emailed somebody from
Whoever it
there.
is, those
Yeah,
people.
whoever that was. And I said, hey, like, how do you get an opportunity to try out? Do you have to be um, like recommended from college coaches? Do you, like, is there just an open tryout? So sends me a message like, yes, there is an open tryout. It'll be this time, this date, which was at this point like 2 months away. So I'm like, okay, great. So haven't played ball competitive. I haven't thrown a ball since
I was gonna
2014.
say, yeah.
And
Played catch
when
maybe
I did,
once
it
or
was a
twice.
softball. I haven't picked up a baseball in about, I think it was almost 18 years at this time, from when I actually played baseball. And I was like, well, I better start throwing the ball. So started like working out a little bit, like more geared towards baseball type workouts. Started throwing, started hitting, and I went to an open tryout. And I the dates fell actually right on one of my daughter's birthdays. And I told my
Cool.
wife, I was like, oh man, I want to go to this tryout, but it's Ariadne's birthday, so maybe next year. She was like, "Are you kidding me? Like this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Like go to the tryout. We'll have her party before you leave or after you leave, whatever it is."
Core
Like,
memory for your daughter too. Like,
yeah,
hey, look what my mom
right.
did, right? Like on my birthday, hello. You can sell kids on anything like that.
Oh
Like,
yeah,
hey,
for sure. Just gotta
this is
spin
all
it.
you. Yeah, yeah, good spin.
So I went to the tryout, and it was just my wife and I went. It was in Minnesota, and so they have 3 days of open tryouts, and then after the third day, they make a cut to 40 players. So then you have your top 40, and
How
then
many
they
were
break it.
there? How many total do
I
you
think
remember?
at that
Like,
point it was like 68, 70, somewhere around there.
okay.
And so, so anyway, so then they make the cut after top 40, go down to top 20. Top 20 is the travel roster. Like that's the main team, right? Um, so I walk up and I'm like, Chelsea, I don't even have a batting bag anymore. Like I don't have a bat. I have my glove from college.
The 7 year
Like
old little league kids have more gear than you do to show up for this,
right. And
right?
I'm just
Like,
like, we literally went to Walmart in Minnesota and grabbed a bag to put my glove and cleats and which
come
I were
on.
brand new cleats as well. Like all these things. I'm just like, what am I doing? Anyway, so we walk up and these girls are like all decked out in their stuff and they all know each other and not all of them, but a lot of them know each other and they all have previous USA hats on or whatever they've been to in the past. And I'm just like, man, try not to be intimidated, right? So I'm like, okay, well, here we go. So gave him my best shot. I made top 40. And then so once you're at top 40, you're split up into two teams. And then you play a couple games, do a little bit of drills in the morning, then play a game a day. And then they break it down to top 20. So unfortunately, that year I did not make top 20. I made top 40. And so they were like, "Hey," because the coach was like, because again, they have like a pipeline that kind of goes to USA
Sure.
Baseball. There's things that as early as 12 or 13 years old, there's different games and tournaments, sorry, and
That's
tournaments
okay.
that you can um, join. It's like once a year, about a week worth of training that will kind of feed into this. So they all know who it is, and then there's players and USA coaches that are involved in it, and so they all kind of knew each other from those past events. And the first ball I got, I threw it, and one of the coaches was like, "Do I know you?" I was like, "No, ma'am." It's just like, okay, like, so what's your name? And so I uh I told her my name, did a couple more things. She was like, where are you from? And I was like, from
How did you end up
Texas. And
here?
what do you do? And to my luck, the head coach of Team USA, even still to this day, same coach, was a retired firefighter. She had just retired. She just hit her 10 years. I think she
Love
was
it.
10 years. And she had just retired. She was a firefighter out in Florida. And then my like sub coach for my team is still a current firefighter. She's a fire captain in Oakland. And so she was like, and she's older. She
Nice.
played until she was mid to late 40s on Team USA, and then she just switched to the coaching side of things. But she's been involved. Like she played for the Silver Bullets. Um, I don't know if you
No
remember
clue.
them. The women's team.
Nope.
Like she played a while. And
Gotcha.
so it was like the first women's professional team ever, and they were based out of Colorado, Silver Bullets, and they would play men's teams. So anyway, so she's played forever, but she was also a firefighter, so naturally I'm like talking fire to her a little bit.
Hi.
Anyway,
Hello.
just
Look
like
at me.
making conversation,
Sure.
right?
Yep.
And
Just what we
so
do.
right, and so anyway, so ended up not making top 20 that year, and they were like, "Hey, like I know that you have something here. I just want you to go back and train a little harder on these specific things. Like when's the last time you played? When's the last time you that I told him I was like freaking years ago. Like I played softball in 2014. Played baseball. Like it was I think I counted it was like 17 or 18 years prior to this tryout. And they're like, holy smokes. Like they're like, just go back and train, hit the ground running, get yourself some games, like game like reps, and come back to the next tryout. I was like, all right. So I went back and my wife was there. I was told her I didn't make it, whatever, and she was like, "Well, I really think you need to actually train, like prepare your body,
Hell yeah.
um, get some reps in. There's a men's wood bat league that's here. Most of them are like on Sundays, and it's just random dudes that are out of college that are playing baseball still. She was like, join that, and so I did. So I came home, uh, found a trainer here who was awesome. He's sports specific to baseball. So he was amazing at getting my body right. Apparently, training nowadays, which I'm sure you know, and training back when I was in college, completely different. Not only am I at this point 12 or 13 years older, but just the way that we train and mobility, hip mobility ended up being like my bread and butter and still is. That was a game changer because I couldn't get to the right position I needed to be in to feel the ball. So,
What
you know,
happens when you're 30? Wait till you're
right,
almost
like
50. Like
like,
I can't
oh.
feel the baseball if I tried right now, probably. Not that I
But
was
it's
ever
like
good at it to begin with, but I don't think I have that.
but it's just like different things that I had no idea that I was neglecting, right? And then while I haven't done those type of workouts ever, now I'm doing them, and then I started seeing the direct
Sure.
results of them being positive. So anyway, trained up for a year, played some leagues, played in some games here in Corpus. They had a couple, like 2 or 3 different women's tournaments across the country that I played in. Played in one in Florida, played in one in Virginia, um, and got some reps. And those are women's baseball tournaments. So we played against people from Canada and then just all across the country. And the next time I came up, I went to tryouts and I made top 40 again. And then I performed pretty well, and I ended up making top 20. So that was 2 years ago. 2 years ago, we had a qualifier in Canada. That's a qualifier for the World Cup, which we had this past summer. So every year, you have to try out again.
Okay.
So I made the team 2 years ago. Awesome. Obviously, can't can't get complacent.
Yep.
We ended up qualifying. We went 6-0. We completely dominated, thankfully. So we were able
Awesome.
to go to the World Cup this past summer.
Can I ask a
Um,
question? Wait, can I ask a
yes,
question? And you could tell
yeah.
me no, but are you the oldest person on the team?
I'm
Player?
not.
Oh,
I'm not.
okay. All right, cool. Then we
I'm
can just end it there.
close.
I don't want to hear how old the oldest person is. I'm just curious because, just my own
I will say
curiosity.
she's under 40.
Listen,
She's
good for you guys. Like I'm
she's a
like so
pitcher.
jealous.
She's our closer, actually. She's great.
Okay, yeah,
Our
listen,
She just
that's
happens to be
baseball
Oh, yeah,
styles. There's closers in their 40s, I think, still, or
absolutely.
late
She just
30s
happens to
for
be an
sure.
architect in real life and does really cool shit in real life. She's amazing.
Do you,
One of the best human beings I've ever met.
you're telling me this story, and in true firefighter fashion, in my head, I'm like, this is a fucking movie. Like this is every baseball movie put together, kind of like right, like A League of Their Own, The Rookie, the
Yeah,
like
started with
maybe
a dream, a little bit of
there's probably
failure.
some major league in there in some points, like like all the baseball movies put together.
Yep.
Like I'm like, yeah, you could. This is a movie. So if anyone's listening, I know some movie producers and writers out here. I'm calling it here. Hook
I
me
am
up with
too.
some kind of a residual if it comes. But this is a movie story that we've just told in the past few minutes, right? And so, do you try out again this year, or where are we at for this year?
I
Or you're
tried out this
not?
past summer,
Okay.
made the team as well. We qualified for the World Cup 2 summers ago, the first time I made it. Then this year was the World Cup. So this season, or this, I say season, it's not a season, but
That's a
this
season.
round was about 3 weeks total. And it was middle to end of July.
Okay.
And so, just a little snippet, I was there from May, June up until this week of tryouts when I was coaching the firefighters with the for banana
Oh
ball.
my
So it
god.
was all going into one another. But tried out again, made the team, did some training, and then we went to Canada, played the World Cup. You play everybody once. There's 6 teams, so you played 5 games. Played everybody once. The top 2 records go to the championship to play for a gold medal. We went 5-0. We beat Japan, which was the first time they lost in, I forgot, 12 years or something insane. They're a complete powerhouse in baseball, women's baseball and men's baseball. They won their World Cup on the
Sure.
men's side as well. But we beat them for our 5th game, and then we went to the championship, and then we lost. So we ended up getting silver.
Can't win them all.
So
It makes for a better movie if you don't win, right? Sometimes it makes
yeah,
for a better
just
movie.
stay tuned until 2027. That'll be a different story.
The Mighty Ducks didn't win, right? Or something like that, I think so. One of those sports movies that I could think of. It's
But yeah,
so epic.
yeah,
Like, I
that was
try to tell, I counsel younger firefighters in a way of like, hey, don't do too much. Don't burn the candle at both ends
Hmm.
because then, you start to spiral maybe a little bit. And
Right.
here you are telling me you're like, the busiest person in hardest working firefighter in show business, let's call you right now, right? Type of a thing. Because you went right into banana ball from this. So just do me that favor and make sure you're, you know, keeping that time for you and the family and things. I don't want to see you burning out, for
Absolutely.
lack of a better term, here in
Yes,
firefighter
for
lore.
sure.
But
Definitely.
let's go with banana ball. What is it? Tell the folks who may be living under a rock listening what goes on with banana ball.
Okay. Well, banana ball is not like the Harlem Globetrotters, which is a very common comparison.
Okay,
Um, people compare it obviously based because of the showmanship and all that that's added to it. One of the main differences is in banana ball, the baseball part, the banana ball part, none of that is scripted, which I didn't even know until I got there. So very easy to not know.
lay it
But the
out there.
pitching and
Sure.
hitting, like all that, yes, there's trick plays involved, there's trick pitches, all these things involved, but that's completely on the fly, organically created from the baseball players. So they make that part of the show. Now the grand entrances and the crazy walk-ups and the mid-inning dances, all of that, yes, we have coordinators who
Sure.
create that stuff and choreographers and stuff, who a whole entertainment team that make that happen. Um, but the banana ball side of it is all pure, which is, to me as a coach, very exciting because obviously there's a couple different rules that are different than baseball that are added specific to banana ball. And in doing so, it was just a whole nother way that we had to relearn how to coach our team, right? So we have guys who played in affiliated ball, professionally. They played independently, professionally. Some of them came straight out of college, who are on my team, and they're used to traditional baseball. And so the transition between banana ball and in traditional baseball, that transition was a little hard. It takes um, you're graded on a little curve for a minute there,
Sure.
but very quickly did these guys pick up on it. And as a coach, the strategy is different as well. And so once I learned the strategy of banana ball and figuring out when to have some feel as far as, hey, I'm going to rip a trick play right now. Because if I miss, I'm still up and run. Or if I miss, I'm not going to lose the inning, like that kind of thing. Like learning when we can go for it all versus when we have tiers of trick plays, right? You have one that you can do 10 out of 10. You have one that you can do 7 out of 10. You have one that you can do 2 out of 10. But that's going to bring the biggest excitement if you complete it. So, like, knowing when to rip which kind of trick play is something that our guys are constantly trying to understand the feel of.
This is
Um,
totally amazing to me, by the way. And I've been amazed by many guests. I'm not going to sit here and try to lie, but you're saying all this. And in my head, I'm like, I really have to go watch one of these games because, like, my
yes.
sons talk about it all the time. I don't think I've ever watched a full game in any way, but like from seeing it online. And again, I did compare it to the Harlem Globetrotters because that's what I was thinking in the whole time. And maybe like a bit of like a WWE feel to it all. But the baseball is real. And now you're talking about this strategy, so it's like your creator created a whole new sport, I guess, right? Or a whole new
Absolutely.
way to play a
Oh,
sport,
banana
which is
ball.
epic. Yeah. Yeah. But think about that, right? When you see it online, and I feel like even kids aren't really maybe to that level because it's new. And
Right.
maybe that's why as it grows, right?
Absolutely. They're the whole creation. Like you mentioned a carnival earlier. I'm sorry, you mentioned a circus earlier. You mentioned WWE. You've mentioned different aspect, the Harlem Globetrotters. Like P.T. Barnum is huge for Jesse Cole and who he studies. Read all his books, studied how he created the circuses. Vince McMahon, also somebody who he studies. Like these are the creator of what we're
Yeah.
doing at Banana Ball. He learned from all of these different tiers, right? He studied the Harlem Globetrotters, and the reason why I'm kind of quick to correct that, I'm trying to correct that, is because the competitive side in the Globetrotters always win. That's not the case in banana
I
ball.
think they lost once. The Globetrotters
It's
lost once to the
one time?
Washington
Okay.
Generals. I think one time. I'm gonna correct you on that. I'm pretty sure it's one time. But again,
Well,
like
baseball
reading
script.
reading
But
up about banana ball too, and seeing that, that this is a real baseball game you're going to
yeah,
see, and it has this showmanship to it that is just, it's almost something like I feel like we need, right? Like
absolutely. It's
competitiveness with fun in
fast
a way.
paced. There's a 2 hour time limit. So you're not at a ballpark for 4 hours if you don't want to be.
Amen to that.
There's a lot of aspects that are added, different rules that are added to speed the game up. And so that's something that's exciting and it's growing. And in 2026, we're gonna have 6 teams. Right now we have four. We're gonna have 6 teams in 2026, and it's gonna be a whole league. Every team's gonna have the same amount of games home and away. You're gonna have a full on schedule, rankings, and you're gonna have a championship playoffs at the end. So it's definitely moving in
It's
the in
so
that direction.
Another exciting part too with this, and I just knew this because my sons both played lacrosse, is when you watch someone kind of develop a league. Because we've watched on the lacrosse side when they were both really like
Mhm.
heavily into it, both outdoor and indoor lacrosse leagues. Like you kind of start with the traveling show because you don't have
Mhm.
home teams or anything because you can't build a fan base.
Right.
Um, and so everybody was traveling around. Then you get to that 6 team league where you can have kind of a home base and start to grow the fans, and he's
Hmm.
clearly already done that because you guys are selling out Major League Baseball parks, right?
Yeah. And this coming year, they've sold out NFL stadiums.
Oh my
So
gosh! So
yeah.
where are you playing this year then? Where do you get to go? Because this alone excites
So
me.
the firefighters specifically are playing in 10 different major league ballparks: Fenway, Yankee Stadium, San Diego, Seattle, Chicago, um, Kansas City, Anaheim. I'm missing some.
It's okay. How do you go
Yes.
back and
Yeah.
ride? How do you go back and ride on the fire engine after playing in Wrigley Field, Yankee Stadium? Like I'm a Mets fan, as you can see, so I hate everything about the Yankees and what they stand for. But whatever, you get to go play in Yankee Stadium, and then like that's a Tuesday night, and on Thursday you're rolling in for your 24 or 48 or
First shift,
whatever,
right?
right? Like yeah,
Yeah. I mean, the same way you go and fight, fight a fire, fight the beast, and then you're wiping your kid's butt and packing their lunch the next day. I mean,
I
it's
don't
the same
know.
thing.
I
It
can't
really
see it
is.
being the same thing, but okay, I'll believe you. You could be humble about it, but like,
I'm,
well,
I'm
and
just
and
saying.
and how about this though? But like, even better, like, you walk into the kitchen table. Like, I can only imagine how that goes after being like, hey, you won last night, or you lost, or whatever that was. Like, how are the folks on your crew and in your station treating you these days?
They're man, my guys have been great because it started like the big thing that was outside of the station for me was USA Baseball, right? So of course it was a similar leaving for this, coming back for that, and they're like, "Oh, what do you got going there?" And of course they're, you can cook a five course meal that's amazing, and they're gonna tell you it sucks.
Of course,
Again, whatever.
100%.
Uh, so they humble you for sure. They're definitely there to humble me. But at the same time, they're asking questions. How did this work? And how did this work? And I have a picture of in our locker of my captain watching me on TV when I'm up to bat, and he's just sitting there like this, and the guys are making fun of him like he's a proud papa. And so it's exciting. It's very special to me to see them following along and watching too. And but yeah, there's a lot of humbling.
Love it. That's as it should be. Are there any other firefighters on the firefighters team? I did not see that
Yes,
in my
one.
okay.
Matt
Oh,
Wolf.
okay, so there's
He's a rodeo clown guy. If you
okay.
ever pay attention, the guy who's in the barrel. Um, that's kind of his gig. But he's a firefighter out of Oklahoma City.
Cool. So that
Um,
that's exciting too because I'm sure, I know a lot of the stuff that I read about it with the creator of Banana Ball, he took two things that kids love, baseball and firefighting, and kind of put them
mhm.
together. So
Genius.
having you two as the yeah, totally genius. Why weren't we him? Why didn't we think of this? Like, right? I say that
I got
about
to
so
tell
many
you a quick
people.
fun story on that. I
Go
got
ahead.
pulled over by a cop in Savannah. Um, and I'm going, and I had just picked my wife up from the airport, and my kids were in the back. I just gave them their jerseys because they're about to go to this game, and this guy pulls me over, and he's like, it was a where in Texas the way that our roads are, the way that this specific setup was, that's a yield sign. It's not a, it's you got a stop sign here, And then this is a yield sign
I love
in
your
Savannah.
justification already.
In
If you're listen,
I
folks,
was
too,
not wrong, but I
if
was
you're
wrong.
listening, she's using her hands and like showing the viewers on YouTube how she was driving to prove, like, hey, cop, I was right, you were wrong. But go ahead,
Exactly.
keep going.
So stop sign in Savannah, yield sign, or I'm sorry, stop sign in Texas, yield sign in Texas. Stop sign in Savannah, stop sign in Savannah. So I was so confused because both of these are stop signs in Savannah, but the
Okay, so you
merging one
stop.
in Texas is a yield sign. Nobody was inside, so I just went along with my day. Anyway, guy saw me, pulled me over. He's looking at all my stuff and he's like looking around, and it's in Savannah, so they're very familiar with who the Bananas are. And they saw that we had the new team, and he's like, "Are y'all like, do y'all play for them or do you work for them?" And I was like, "Yeah, they're here to watch a game." And he was like, "Oh, okay." And then his training officer comes by and he's like asking me how he did, like was he professional and all this stuff. I was like, "Yeah, it's fine." And so he was like, "Are y'all here for the game?" And I was like, "Yeah." And my wife's like, or he asked if we worked or played for them, and my wife's like, "Yeah, she's the head coach of the firefighters." And he was like, "Are you kidding me?" He's like, "That's so cool." But he said, "I gotta say, I could not be more disappointed." He said, "You know that everybody loves you guys way more than they love us. And now you have a whole baseball team named after you. Nobody's ever gonna give us any credit as cops."
You
Oh,
just have to sit
he was
there and
having
smile and be like,
I was
sorry.
so sorry. He let me go. I didn't get a ticket, thankfully. He was
That's a
super
win.
cool.
Listen, to the firefighter or to the cops out there listening, I always like to say, like, you guys just took the wrong test. Like, I don't know what
Absolutely.
happened when we went to the left to the firefighter test and you went to the right to the cop test. You made a mistake. You should have made a left. You should have stopped or yielded, however you were trying to describe that. I mean,
They were
in
on
New
Texas
Jersey,
rules, they weren't on Savannah rules.
New Jersey, we call that a California roll, what you kind of described, where we just kind of roll through stop signs, and it's okay.
Oh,
It
yeah.
happens. But,
Yeah.
it's so awesome. Like, and we're getting close to that kind of hour mark that I promised I would only keep you for. And I love this so much, like that we just keep talking about this. But what's one other thing you want to put out there about kind of like Banana Ball and the firefighters and what it is you get to do, kind of that we may not know about? Because you've already educated me so much in 10 minutes. So
Yeah, so with in Banana Ball, like actually the organization's called Fans First Entertainment. And going back to my draw to always serving people and trying to figure out what niche I had that I can use to do that, right? This evolving from the fire service into my baseball side of things, and I guess like I talked about at the beginning, like what do I have in my toolbox that I can create like those
sure.
relationships with. Well, same way now it's just through baseball instead of firefighting. And so through baseball and firefighting, actually merging them both is I've met so many firefighters at every game. At every game at the end we had end or beginning, we have an autograph session. And so we're out there in the crowd just having autographs, taking pictures, hanging out with people, meeting people. And there's I get so lucky every game because I get to have these 2 or 3 minute conversations that I told you about with people who are career firefighters, or they're one of the ones that we had as a firefighter of the night was recognized. Her husband just had died in the line of duty, and it was just a super honorable thing. They were supposed to go to the game together, and he died.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, it was not a not a dry eye in the seats,
gotcha. Gotcha.
but, which is obviously, like, there's a lot of heaviness to it and emotional sides of it. And then you have the little kids that just dream of being a firefighter and they don't know. And then they also happen to play baseball and they're like, I can do both. And they're just so blown away by being able to see just another opportunity that these kids have. And so for me, one of the coolest things that I get to do is just meet people and see where they're at. I get to talk to them, whether it's through the fire service and natural conversations like that, or whether it's little girls baseball who play baseball. There's a lot of girls who play baseball out around these games that come up to me and are like, I play baseball on my team. I'm the only girl on my team, and they're excited about it. And it's, for me, it's, I want them obviously to see just another level of opportunity of what they have and what they can do. I have teammates who are playing college baseball and doing all these things. They just created a professional women's baseball league that'll be starting up in 2026. Like, so there's
I
other
saw that.
opportunities that are starting to come up that are great and eye opening for these girls. But it's obviously it hits home. It's super special for me to be able to connect with those guys.
That's so awesome. Like, especially to the little kids, because like I've worked with a few female firefighters, and like just to see the look, like, listen, little kids see a fire truck, they see firefighters, they light up. But when you have a little girl who sees a female firefighter, they light up even more.
Hmm.
Especially if they have that like "I want to be you" type of a thing. Like you're put on this pedestal to them that none of us could even come close to comparing to. And I've seen it so many times. I got to do some stuff with like firefighter fitness competitions. And just there to see that little girl see one of the female firefighters competing and being
Hmm.
like, I could be you. And that 2 minutes, 2 seconds you take out of your day to give a wave or anything like that just
Hmm.
means so much more to them. So I can imagine on your level, especially being on a baseball field and again, like a Yankee stadium, like out of
Yeah.
control, like, and you're so
Yeah,
humble
it's
about it,
super cool,
Val.
and being there, like, I mean, we get like, I've gotten to pull some of them on the field and just play catch and just, like, have a conversation, and obviously
Oh,
can't do that with everybody, but just little things like that if I was a little girl playing catch with another female or anybody, male or female, doesn't matter,
sure.
playing catch in a baseball game with somebody, I'm not gonna forget that.
But even like looking back as to being like a kid, way, way, way back when, even other kids seeing that, like, oh wow, that's so cool. The manager, Val, the firefighter, I want to be that kid. You know what I mean? Or like, how
Mhm.
cool is that she did that? Those register, as we call them with my kids, like core memories. And,
Yeah,
and to think how you have that opportunity to create these core memories is just,
right.
I love it. Love every
Yeah.
minute of it. I'm jealous.
It's pretty I'm definitely lucky, that's for sure.
So where can everybody find you and the team and all your social media handles and things like that? If they want to learn some more, if they want to come out to see a game, I mean, they're sold out probably by this point. So
Join the lotto. Um, no, so you can follow me on Instagram. My handle is Val Perez _27. That's that's on TikTok as well. Um, and I'm mostly on Instagram, TikTok. You can follow me on X. It's all the same handle for everything. Um, but yeah, as time progresses, I continue to post kind of just like little insight on things, and some of it's baseball specific, some of it's banana ball specific, some of it's fire specific. So just depends. Just trying to give a little taste into what I get to do every day. Um, One of the things I learned through working with the bananas is obviously social media is such a huge presence, and a lot of time I have kids, you have kids, I have a 12, a 10, and a 4-year old. So my 12 and 10-year-old, I don't let them have social media. So, you know what I mean? It's kind of seems
it's a
like backwards,
conversation.
right?
It's
And there's
not.
a lot
No,
of
no, no. Don't say it's backwards because it's not because they're 12 and 10, right?
true,
And it's not necessarily backwards because yeah, there are 12 and 10-year-olds and 8 and 6-year-olds that have social media,
right?
and
That's true,
it what do you need it for? Has
right?
always been my question.
Yeah.
And my older son is 14 and high school is a whole different ball game. Like
Hmm.
if you're I guess by high school at this point, your kids are getting social media for the most part, just because they get so much of their information from it in a way, like, and good
Yeah,
information, good and bad. Um, but
absolutely.
don't because again, I'm on social media as well, right? As much as I don't like it as much these days, I'm still have to be there.
Yeah.
Um, but don't ever say that because you're doing what you feel is right for your kids today. That may change next year at 13. It may change at 14, or my older son has a page that he does his stuff on, but he rarely does anything. It's more just watching. He just created a performance page
Oh,
because
goodness.
in his role in like music and theater, that's a way to get seen.
Right.
So I still monitor both of them and kind of manage them. There are some parents that don't let their kids even at this age manage that page. We both do it together,
Hmm.
and it's one of those important things. But what I see on your page that is kind of a lot like mine is it's positivity. So I tell my kids, follow the positive ones, leave all the noise alone.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what obviously when it's your kid, you're trying to protect them from the
Sure.
horror stories that are out there and prevent them from having other people have access to them.
Yep.
But at the same time, they're wanting to watch a TikTok I'm on or a video of one of my players or what, and they don't have access to it, so they have to watch it on my phone or my wife's phone. But
Which gets
we'll get
annoying
there
after a
eventually.
while.
But
But yeah, yeah.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, it's a matter of not all social media is bad. There's a
Yep.
lot of positivity. Obviously, we got to connect through social media, and with the bananas, I made Team USA, and that was out there, and I got a direct message on Instagram. That's how I got my opportunity through the banana. I mean, I got invited to a
Oh,
tryout.
from them to there. Wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So went to the same way that we connected. I went to a tryout, did well enough to have another conversation, and then got asked to play in a couple games. And a couple months before the season last year, they asked me to manage or to be the head coach. And so, like, it all stems from, you know,
Yeah. No.
certain social
Yeah.
media connections,
a
and so
hundred percent. Right.
it's huge. And anyway, but yeah, so with social media, that's like I'm always trying to put positive things out there. And what one of the things that they tell us in Banana Land is, you got to work the muscle, right? So getting out there, because I may not think my life's that interesting, and you may not think your life's not that interesting, but so many people that you don't even realize are out there that will connect with you, whether it's one thing you said or 10 things you said, and whatever it is, that connection is something that's worth having. So that's kind of what gives me a little bit of confidence of when I feel like, oh, I look dumb, or I don't know, this is just boring or whatever. Like, and I just posted anyway. I never know who's a mom out there who thinks that she can't go try out for whatever team she wants. You know what I mean? And I want to resonate with those people. So
Wow,
trying to do
this
my
has been
best.
amazing. I'm so glad I internet stalked you and found you to get this story, because it would have been more like out of control if I went to a Bananas game and be like, is that a girl? Is she a firefighter? Like, let me follow her now. Let me get right into let me see if I can talk to her, get her on the show real quick. But this has been like, this is a movie. Like, I gotta call some folks. Like, I know some people now. I know some folks, but you
I
have a
believe
movie.
it. I
Like,
believe it.
they don't
You let me
listen to me
know.
or anything. They may not pick up the phone if I call them, but like, your your story is totally a baseball movie that needs to be told. And I can't thank you enough for joining me with this. It's been so much fun.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
So, are you ready for the size up 10?
I'm a little nervous, but I think I
Should
can
be.
handle
Everybody needs to be there.
it.
I make it really dramatic for the fun of it. But we're gonna change. I'm definitely changing one of these questions too, because I'm allowed to, because I'm the host, and that's what
You
I
get to
get
do
to
what you
do.
want.
It's almost like Banana Land over here, where you just do what you want in a way. Like, I can
Oh
do
yeah.
that. If they're looking
Okay.
for anybody, out there media wise, I'm always up for a new challenge. So maybe you know a guy you could hook me up with. That would be
Yeah.
fun. All right, here we go. Number one, your choice: beach or mountains.
Beach.
How about a night out or a night in?
Are my kids home or are they not home? A night out with my wife, a night in with my family.
There you go. You didn't even need to answer that. You could just say, "Are my kids home or not?" And I know exactly where your mind was going, because again, I got kids. I know what it's about. Like, I know how
Right.
that works. And them getting older doesn't make anything any easier at all. So that's for damn sure. All right, here's a switch up for you. How about a baseball movie everyone needs to see?
uh on repeat in my house is Rookie of the Year.
That's the one with the kid for the Cubs, right? Rookie of the year.
Yep.
The cheddar. He
Yep.
throws the cheddar, the hot
Yep.
stinking cheddar. I love that
That's
one.
my son's not allowed to watch anything when he goes to bed that's cartoons or anything. It's animated because he will never go to bed. And so we only will put on a movie, and it's Major League, which is kind of inappropriate. Um, Rookie of the Year, Sandlot, or Angels in the Outfield. That's on repeat almost every night in my house.
So like three of the purest baseball movies ever, and then just throw
Yeah.
in Major League for it. Why
Yeah,
not? I
just,
love it.
keep it spicy.
Listen, I use a line, and I didn't necessarily say I wanted to bring this up, but the best line in A League of Their Own to use at the firehouse when someone is just not grasping the concept, whether it be one of your coworkers or someone on a call, is
Uh-huh.
like, listen, the way it works is the train moves, not the station. Like,
Ooh, I like that.
I say
I
that
like
line from that all the time, especially for other firefighters when you're just like banging your head against the wall. Like, why aren't you understanding the words coming out of my mouth? And it's, listen, the way it works is the train moves, not the station.
That's hilarious. I
Uh,
like it. It's a good one.
all right, here we go. Cross country road trip. Who is your celebrity co-pilot, living or dead,
Celebrity co-pilot. Oh man,
or famous person, or
I'm gonna go with Pat Summitt.
Oh, okay, there you go. She would be an interesting person to
She
have
was
with you in the car
probably
for
the
that long.
only person famous who's ever passed away that I actually cried real tears for. She was like a mentor to me.
I mean,
Not really.
definitely a
She
pioneer.
doesn't know I existed, but I followed a lot of their
But
things.
again, that a perfect form for a mentor, right? You don't have to meet your mentor, but you can learn
Right.
so much from them. And she had such a
Absolutely.
storied career. I mean, here I am. I know a lot about her, right? So, and no one has said Pat Summit yet. So there you go. Love it. Do you make your bed every day?
You're gonna get me in trouble. Um, no. And I'm just gonna say that. Would I like to? Absolutely. Whenever I'm was living in Savannah before I had visitors, I made it every day. At work, I make it every day. That's all I'm gonna
And
say.
then that's it. You could leave it right there. It is the easiest and most controversial question I ask. So
I see the
how
importance of it. I will say
there you go.
that.
That's all that matters, right? Is you can think about the importance of it. How about a book that everyone needs to read?
Oof. Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert is a creative book that I followed. Um, it's probably one of my favorite books for sure. And then
Never
Grit by Angela Duckworth.
never heard of either one of them. So they're getting written down and hopefully will end up in my little book section below. So I asked that question for my own personal knowledge. I really don't care if anyone else takes it. At least I know I am. So when you're not getting pulled over, do you take highways or back roads?
uh, Based on where I live, highways.
Nice. Got to get to where you're
But
going. In Texas, they're big highways too, so it does
yeah,
work.
just go
You
85.
also could be the first person to ever tell a encounter with law enforcement story on my podcast. So you have that going for you as well as another first.
It's a positive one.
Sure.
Little
Right.
win for the firefighters in general, like all across the country. Another reason
Right
why
there.
we're a little bit better.
My God. That alone is going to be like a cop is definitely messaging me for that comment if they've
Friendly
listened this far.
rivalry.
Yeah.
Everybody calm down.
How about a bucket list place you want to visit?
Whew. I have been doing way more traveling than I ever imagined right now. So I will tell you, when I was done traveling, home was amazing. Um, Bucket list. I don't even know. Oh, I want
It's
to go
okay.
on an Alaskan cruise. I
Okay.
live by the
Nothing wrong with
beach.
that.
I live by everything tropical. It's hot. I want to sit on the balcony side. Hopefully, we don't hit any icebergs, and just be on the ship and just look around and have my coffee on the side. That would be a goal.
I'm in. That's on my list, and it's actually, believe it or not, it's on my older son's list of like, when are we
Really,
doing the Alaska cruise, Dad? You like everyone I know that's done them has just positive. It's just amazing
right?
to see. So
And
it's
that
definitely there,
scenery is so different than what I'm used to around here. So
100%.
it's yeah,
It's what everybody's used to, except for the folks that live in Alaska. So
true. Very true. Very true.
you have that. Cool. Well, that is definitely a doable one. So I think you should get on
Yes.
that. We'll talk to some people. All right, two more. This one's an interesting one for you, I think. For you, is it football or football?
Oof. Okay, I took a deep dive in the U.S. women's national team for a long time in my life. Abby Wambach was going to be the other person I'd want on my road trip, by the way,
Just to
besides
slide
Pat
it in
Summitt.
there in case.
Abby
Okay.
Wambach, love you.
You only get one answer usually. You
Read
just
your
you
book.
just
I know,
totally
I'm
broke the
sorry. Now
rules
I'm like
here.
backtracking.
5 questions later, you're like, this is what I'm doing. I'm breaking the rules.
So based off them, I'm going to go with football. But I
Nice.
mostly
Very
say it like
nice.
that as a joke. But
As do I. Well, no, so I am a football fan, and I have my own little, European teams and things like that. So I go back and forth with it as just being football, just to mess with people. But it's like
yeah,
calling it a match. I call it a match
right,
and not a game. Like people get
right.
all confused about that. I'm like,
Or
no,
the
it's a
pitch.
match.
It's on the field.
Or the gaffer. I like the gaffer too. Is
The
another
gaffer.
good one of mine. The gaffer. But that's the way it goes. All right, last question. And again, this is my podcast, and you've basically said this the whole time. But the best advice you could give to your younger self.
Oof. Um, I would say that's a hard question. That's why we're supposed to be intimidated by this question. Best advice, I would say be great or like go for it, be great and do it, work hard to get there. But it doesn't just matter where you end up, it matters how you get there, in my opinion.
Oh, I love it.
Because
Right? And enjoy that road.
yeah, enjoy the
Like,
road. And not only that, I've gotten to meet a lot of way more successful than me people, and I'm hope to keep meeting more. But the ones that people ask to talk to, the ones that people ask to have conversations with, they're not the assholes. They're kind people. They're genuinely good people who want others around them to be good or better than them. You know what I mean? And so I've learned that there's a lot of people that do great things, and sometimes you see how they get there, and that's not necessarily a path that you would want yourself or your child to follow. So that's something that I kind of keep in the back of my head is how I treat people when I'm trying to achieve my goals, and not necessarily the path as far as like left, right, up, down, and how you get there, but who you are on that journey.
Oh my
If that
God!
makes
Now I know
sense.
why you're the coach. When are you testing for when are you testing for lieutenant or engineer or whatever your first captain, whatever your first rank is? Go your 10 years, go take your test, because that advice, which really comes down to don't be the asshole. I mean, I posted it on the social media page yesterday, like put your card away. It's really simple. Don't be the asshole. Like, don't be that guy. Teach your children well. But Val, this has been awesome. I've kept you way longer. Could be the longest episode ever to this date, which I have no
Oh,
complaints about because I know people are still listening because your story's been amazing and this has been a great conversation. So thank you
awesome.
again for coming on.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was a blast just talking. Very casual. A lot of good things come out of organic conversation. So
The only way I know how to be is casual. So it's the way we go.
awesome.
As always, though, thank you all for listening. Check out Val, check out the Savannah Bananas and the firefighters, specifically the firefighters, because there is not a cop team, because we're just better, and that's the way it goes. So how we have to do things like that. But thank you all for listening and tuning in. And until next time, for the Size Up by National Fire Radio, this is Pip. And remember, what you do off the job matters.
National Fire Radio.